Okay, we have noise. Good evening, everyone. This is the Board of Education Annual Reorganizational Meeting, and as such, we technically don't have board officers, at least until I swear in the president. So I'm just going to take the privilege to tell a few stories. Just kidding. I would like to call the meeting to order at 6:01. Can you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In terms of announcement, the major announcement is exits are to your rear as well as to the front of the library. Can I have a motion other than Mrs. Rogette to adopt the agenda? Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Presley. Agenda adopted. The first order of business, Mrs. Wetmore, the district clerk, to come forward to render the swearing-in of our two, actually, technically, let me back up. Mr. Presley cannot second that motion because he hasn't been sworn, Mr. Trainer, to swear in Ms. Rogette and Mr. Presley.
I solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park, according to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Welcome aboard, Bob.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education
a member of the Board of Education
in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park,
in the Shenendehowa Central School District in Clifton Park,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard, President.
Thank you. Thank you. That's official.
It's technically, so I keep my job.
Right. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position of Superintendent of Schools in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park,
in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities. Thank you.
Welcome back.
We also have copies, even while technically existing board members don't need to sign, every year we do have board members sign anyway the swearing in. So just as one of those symbolic gestures to say that we're all committed to the cause, so to speak. So thank you very much, Mrs. Wetmore. The second order of business is election of Board of Education officers. The process goes that I will ask for a nomination, and if there's a nomination, I'll ask if there's a second to that nomination. If there's a second to that nomination, I will call the question and ask for a vote. If there's a majority vote, that individual will be then, Mrs. Wetmore will come back and swear that individual in as the president of the Board of Education. Once the president of the Board of Education is sworn in, he or she will then take charge of the meeting and do the same for the vice president of the Board of Education. So at this point, I'll turn to the board and ask, is there a nomination for president? Mr. DeLallo.
I'd like to nominate Bill Casey to serve a second term as board president.
So the nomination for Mr. Casey is second by Mrs. Blaber.
At the second.
So seeing the nomination is second, call the question. All in favor of Mr. Casey serving as president of the Board of Education?
Can I vote? You vote. Seeing all in favor? No. Motion carried. Congratulations, Mr. Casey.
Thank you
You're
very
the
much.
President.
Get my chance to hear the gavel back.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
of
President of Board of Education
President of the Board of Education
in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park,
in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have all kinds of signatures tonight. So, thank you very much. Thank you. And we have to elect a vice president, and we'll follow the same procedure that we use for the president. I call for nominations for the position of vice president of the board. Todd?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Presley to a second term.
Okay. Jim, you like second? Any discussion? All those in favor? You can vote for yourself. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
On your feet.
Again.
Okay, recite my I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Vice President of Board of Education
of Vice President, Board of Education
in the Shenendehowa Central School District at Clifton Park,
in the Shenendehowa Central School District of Clifton Park,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Actually,
Kathy.
yeah, one. That's fine.
Our next order of business under election and oath is the Code of Ethics. There is a whole section in our policy book. I think I've even got it here. Policy 6110, Code of Ethics for the Board of Education members and district personnel. It lays out standards for us. Interestingly, in the words in the policy itself, it talks about Board of Education members will be held to the highest standard and beyond everyone here. So this is in effect, it is a code of conduct. It governs not only our procedures in terms of dealing with outside vendors and with any avoidance of conflict of interest, but it also deals with our, I guess the right word would be deportment as members of the Board of Education. So we'll each be asked to sign,
There's a copy going around.
and copies are coming around.
Coming.
There we go.
You'll be the last person.
I'll be the last person to sign, okay. So we don't need a vote on that. We'll move directly into Board of Education comments. Christina, you've been at a couple of these meetings, so you know, you're going to be the first one on the hot
Sure,
seat.
no problem. Well, first of all, I prepared a 30-minute dissertation.
Good.
Okay,
All
so I
right,
got
yeah.
that. Honestly, my comments for today is I'm thrilled to finally have officially joined the Board of Education and look forward to working with each and every one of you, as well as all of our stakeholders, staff, and parents and families. So really, that's short and sweet, and I look forward to be much more participatory as we move forward. So,
Thank you. Jim?
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to also welcome Christina to the board. I wish you many productive years of service to our school community. And congratulations to our renewed board officers. Thanks quite sincerely for undertaking that responsibility once again. I appreciate it. I wanted to say kudos to Dr. Robinson and the senior leadership. We've seen at least half a dozen surveys come in over the last few weeks that have very positive results for Shenendehowa in comparison to a lot of school districts, not only in the capital district, but statewide. And I think there was a nationwide one that we did very well in too. I don't remember what it was for offhand, but so thank you. I also wanted to thank Dr. Robinson and President Casey for the opportunity to participate in graduation. in the ceremony itself. I've seen it 4 times from the other vantage point, and it was nice and refreshing. Not quite as memorable in a personal sense, but very nice to be up on stage and being able to participate in the graduation of so many good students. And finally, I'm looking forward to the year to come. Thanks.
Mary?
Thank you. Mrs. Rajat, I'm so happy that you've joined us now officially. You have actual table.
Yes.
That's good. You would be a great asset. I know you will. I'm glad that you're here. I wanted to comment on a few things, and it's kind of a longer list than usual because I was absent for that part of the business meeting last time, so bear with me. Because I think it's worth acknowledging the work that our students did Freshman Give Back Day at High School West with such great enthusiasm to tidy up and really put their imprint on the building before they move over to East. There were lots of concerts, the high school band, the choral concert, there was Scano, there were award ceremonies of all sorts. There was a very conscious effort at the earliest stages to get our students to start to think about what it is, why you're in school and what that leads to in terms of career development and college. Even at Scano, they had the annual Latin American Business Fair. We have a lot of little entrepreneurs with some really great ideas. Yet while they're learning also about other cultures and countries, they're learning and languages, they're learning about what it is to run a business, and that was very memorable. And Octe had a career fair as well. They could see what it's like to be an athlete or a doctor or a teacher with pet therapy, all kinds of options to spark their imaginations. And I just think those are the opportunities that stick with students well past their elementary days. I had the opportunity to participate at the SFA Senate banquet, which was very nice to see the students kind of pass the torch of governance of the SFA Senate from one group to the other, and that was wonderful. The Team 20 celebration this year recognized our robotics team, did an outstanding job, and just a little piece of information people might not know, this was the first Capital Region team ever, and the first GE-sponsored team ever to compete at the highest level of the World Championships on the Einstein field. It was a big deal for them. It was a really big deal for them, and they did an outstanding job representing Shen and robotics and all that gracious professionalism that they've come to be known for. Flag Day ceremonies, we were at Orangen for that, and there were several buildings that really wanted to acknowledge the importance of the flag and patriotism and again, at the youngest ages, getting students to start to think about what it is to be a citizen and what the responsibilities and the privileges are. There was a baccalaureate service for graduating seniors, which was lovely, and to be on the field with the seniors on senior countdown day and watch them finish up with their signatures in the yearbook and just celebrate being a class before they went on to graduation was amazing. And the last thing, a little bit more serious note, I wanted to acknowledge that there was an assemblyman, Angelo Santa Barbara, who very deliberately sought input from students on testing, Common Core, APPR, and all of that. And they did an amazing job of giving input into a process that not only affects them, but their teachers. And I just thought, it's another example of when you ask the students what they need or what the impact of something is or whatever, they rise to the occasion every time. And I just thought it was great that he offered the opportunity and the students responded so well to it. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
I guess I could say a few things. Say a few things relative to legislation on both the state and the federal level. In the end, in the state, they did pass the big ugly, as they say, where they combined so many pieces of legislation all in one fell swoop. But surprisingly, they actually got a few things right. And what they did not get right was delinking the age from the acceptance of the teacher's evaluation system. That was unfortunate. I think they made progress towards reviewing Common Core and testing, so that there'll be a greater degree of certainty, comfort, if you will, as we move forward in those areas. There is a lot to be done. I think that the regents are beginning to respond to the fact that the public has made its displeasure known. On the federal level, I know that Dr. Robinson will be lobbying the renewal of the Elementary and Secondary School Act, and I don't know how many years it is now since we've had that act in force. And sometimes you say you're almost better off without the law in place, but in this particular case, it has created a vacuum into which the federal government, particularly the Department of Education under the Arne Duncan, has stepped into the void. And personally, I feel that he has usurped the position of the federal government relative to the role of the states in education. And I believe that the Congress is well aware of that, and they are aware of the fact that they need to take some kind of a step to bring that to an end and bring the federal government back into line in an appropriate way. And so I wish you well, and if there's anything we can do in terms of writing, I think it would be a good idea. That's all I have.
Bob?
Thank you. Three things I'd like to mention. To fellow board members, thank you for your support in both nomination and voting for me to be vice president this year. To Christina, I'd like to say welcome aboard in a very somewhat contentious campaign. We really appreciate your level of maturity and insight that you brought into the discussion, and look forward to seeing that the next 3 years as well. To the community, what I'd like to bring forward is a thank you. That also was a very contentious campaign, and I think we were able to air out deliberately a lot of the thoughts about how we've operated and how we've succeeded as a school district. And I think the comment that I remember is during one of the public events, making the statement, you really have to ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 3 years ago? And I look forward to being able to affirm that 3 years from now as I continue this 3-year term. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. I should have mentioned, Todd Gilbert left the meeting. The stepfather of his wife passed away in Plattsburgh today, and so Todd and family are on their way to Plattsburgh. Second, thank you for your support, and this is really a team effort. I'm really excited about the new year. I think there's just so much going. Jim, you referred to, these surveys, independent surveys, in terms of by various folks, all looking at different ways, and Shen is right up there, at the top or very near the top, across the board, and that's wonderful. And I think of our board focus last year. The district does an excellent job of putting together goals and then plans to move forward, how to meet those goals. But the board this is setting goals is a policy thing. And last year our focus, I remember, as we sat around talking about what we were really interested in. We were interested in student engagement. And Mary mentioning all those events and being at many of myself and just seeing the kids and listening to, seeing the kids who stood up students who stood up at graduation, the honors people, and just knowing a number of those children coming across. I think student engagement is on the rise here, and I think it's a great focus. I think this year, as a board, we've talked informally about student impacts, looking at things from the perspective, how does it impact the students? That we want that to be a primary focus. And I think the other thing that we would like to do, and we've heard from the various members of the community as well on this, and I think they're right on this, is that we need to always be aware of recognizing student achievement, and not to take anything away from our athletic folks, especially where we're talking about student athletes, which is just a wonderful combination of performance on their part. But in our arts and our music program and folks who are just doing outside the ordinary, So we're going to work on that over the year. I think that's just a great focus. I think that's one of our responsibilities. Just reading all these independent surveys just tell me that we have a great school district. And yet, I don't think, when we hired Oliver, we said that one of the goals was to not rest on our laurels. That's always a potential illness that exists when you're doing good things. You can get comfortable and you can say, let the others catch up. And we still say, let the others catch up, but we're a moving target and we're moving up. And I think that's a focus that we have and we want to continue to have. One of the other things that we want to do over the next year, and this is something that we've heard from the public, we feel it ourselves, and we feel it within the district, is we need to be more intentional in improving our communications. And over the last several months, we've had a subcommittee of the board, Mary, Jim, and Janet Gray, who's now off the board, who have put together a draft report for us on some recommendations moving forward as we talk about board retreat agenda in the early part of August and late August. This communications report will be on clearly on our radar. I'll get that out to everyone tomorrow morning so that everybody's got it, and we can use that as a starting point in terms of deciding how best we can improve the communications and where we want to focus. And there's probably multiple areas, and I think as with everything else, we're going to have to decide where we should focus first. But there's some great ideas that came out of this committee, and thank them for doing that, and we'll share that with everyone. I do want to mention one event that is school related, the Green and White Gala. We held in June. It's at our last meeting. Jim Grandy, who's the president of the Shen Education Foundation, spoke to us about what they were doing. He mentioned this upcoming gala. I'm pleased to tell you that we net raised over $50,000 that night, and that's a tremendous amount of support from within the district and from within the community. And I look at some of those folks, especially those business folks who made substantial contributions, and I think, that was wonderful. They're doing that in June, and I know that in September they're making another contribution. They're signing their checks for their taxes, and to see people who feel so energized by what we're doing and put faith in opportunities that we try to create, that we can supplement the funds that are available, supplement the opportunities, that we give ourselves some flexibility mid-year, a special need comes up, the Education Foundation can react to it and can support and find partners and collaborate. So just a wonderful event, very successful, the most successful event we've had this year, and more plans. And as you know, Janet Gray was the board liaison to the Education Foundation. She thought she could slip away into the night, but we did have one meeting before last week, and we elected her to a full term on the board of the Education Foundation. We'll probably be talking to her about additional responsibilities she can take on. And finally, we have a recognition here. Gary, I see Gary using over here using a cheap pen, and so Gary, the School Boards Association decided that you should be recognized. And I'll read, there's a certificate here. They want you to write well, Gary, and and this is so fitting for a recognition of Gary. It's from the New York State School Boards Association Board Lifetime Achievement. And in my lifetime on the board, Gary has been our strongest advocate. He talked about legislation tonight. He'll continue to talk about it. He'll talk about where things are going, not just in this state, but in other places, but it's recognized at the state level. So to Gary DeLalla, Shenendehowa School Board, for participation in New York State School Board Association Leadership Development Opportunities totaling 500 points. And it's signed by the president of the School Board Association, Lynn Lenhart, and the executive director, Kim Krummer. So thank you, Gary. Thank you, and congratulations. So that concludes our Board of Education comments. We'll move to public comments. Looking at the audience, I'll ask this question. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the Board of Education tonight? Okay. While you're on your way, come on up. While you're on your way up, I'm going to just give the preview for this. Okay. The board will not address specific comments, but ask for your name and address in the event follow-up is necessary. The board reminds residents that the public comment portion of our meeting is only one item on a long agenda. We therefore ask that each speaker be succinct as possible and the remarks be limited to 2 to 3 minutes. We'd also expect that the residents speak in a respectful and courteous manner so as to model proper civility and decorum for our students, and we promise to do the same. Residents may also contact the board via boe@shenet.org. All questions come into the superintendent's office are shared with the board. Policy questions, concerns are typically answered by the board president. Operational questions, concerns are typically addressed by the superintendent. And we'll ask your name just so responses.
I have it all set.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I'm gonna
Wow.
speed read.
Thank you.
Randy Johnson, 8 Meadow Run, Clifton Park. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to the board. I would like to inquire why playground equipment purchase and installation is up to the individual elementary buildings. This creates the haves and have-nots. It goes against everything this district has done to establish consistency. I stand here not only as a concerned citizen, but a concerned parent and, yes, a teacher. At Scano, our playground is by far the smallest of the 4 on-campus schools. It is located directly behind the intermediate classrooms, which can be distracting for teachers trying to keep their kids focused on their learning, especially when you have a bunch of kids screaming as they go out to the playground. We have a huge open field that is only partially used by physical education, and there's still plenty of room for playground equipment that could be built to avoid disrupting classes. When I started teaching 21 years ago, when the majority of our playground equipment was bought due to relentless fundraising, our students and their families were responsible for replacing the aging and dangerous equipment, not the district. That to me doesn't seem fair. It's the district's facilities, and it should be the district's responsibility, not the students and families of Scano. We have been, again, trying to raise funds to purchase new equipment, but have only raised about $6,000. And that's taken 4 years to raise. At this rate, we may be able to purchase equipment by the time I retire in 10 years. These facilities are not just used by Shenendehowa students. I've driven through the campus on weekends and in the summer and see community members using them as well. I read that Bethlehem Central School voters last year passed a $4.7 million referendum to install new playground equipment at all their elementary buildings. In searching the grapevine, I found a similar concern from August 2014, and the answer was to put the idea in the 5-year facilities plan. The problem with that is that my child, who will be entering in 3rd grade, will not be able to enjoy a new playground, as will the hundreds of other students currently enrolled in elementary schools throughout the district. I have voted for multi-million-dollar the pool, the $3.5 million for the stadium, and the $2 million for the fitness facilities at the high school, all to benefit the high school athletes. The response from the grapevine was that there was not an emphasis on sports, but I strongly disagree. In all likelihood, I'll be asked to upgrade athletic facilities before I'm asked to improve the elementary school playgrounds. What about our youngest learners who look forward to recess every single day? When are we gonna focus on them? In 5 years? It's about time we focus on upgrading their facilities. They are just as important as having top-notch facilities for our athletes. You never know, you might having better updated equipment may inspire tomorrow's athletes. It's time to honor what it says in the profile of the elementary school student, that we know that we care about them. Dr. Seuss was right when he said that a person is a person no matter how small. It's time we put forth a referendum to update the elementary school buildings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yeah. And we'll get back to you. We'll respond to you. Thank you. We're going to move into, are there additional folks who'd like to speak? If not, we'll move into the superintendent's report.
Just a few comments. First of all, Mr. DeLallo, congratulations on that award. And just to reiterate, in fact, I'm going to reiterate a couple points I already made. You're a tremendous voice in the region. And I would also say tremendous voice in the state because, as you mentioned, tomorrow morning I have a 9:30 meeting with aide for Senator Schumer in Washington DC, which means a 6 o'clock flight. Myself and probably 8 other superintendents from New York as part of New York contingent, as well as superintendents from across the country that are convening in Washington DC tomorrow. Actually, some of them are there today, but tomorrow specifically for purposes of lobbying our legislators. And just today, someone sent me a note to say, hey, what would Gary think about, and it's ironic that you brought up the comment about the lobbying piece. So I say that your voice is respected, certainly by colleagues in the region across the state. Specific to tomorrow, the focus will be on the elementary second education reauthorization, because right now it's stymied somewhat. There was a lot of momentum, and then the momentum failed, and we're hoping that if we get voices behind it, we'll start seeing some movement going into the fall. And the IDEA regulations, which basically is trying to get funding of that particular law itself. So two big chunks. Hopefully we have some news to share upon the return on Thursday. So literally a one-day trip kind of thing. Second piece, just want to say kudos. Mr. Trainer acknowledged the rankings, which are now posted on the website by Mrs. DeFisciani today. And while as superintendent, oftentimes I'm recognized as the person, the face of the school district, which ironically there was another picture of me today for another reason in the newspaper. Which we probably don't want to go into. It was good news anyway. I want to say kudos to our staff, and I say that very respectfully because sometimes people see these ranking and ratings and say, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. But it's a lot of work by a lot of people. And it's not only a lot of work, a lot of good work by a lot of people. And so I certainly want to acknowledge our staff. And by saying that, not only referring to our teachers, but quite often sometimes our support staff that are neglected in the equation when people don't think about who are the people behind the scenes doing all the stuff. And so I want to make sure that I'm very specific that the instructional focus is paramount and the priority, and the support to ensure that our priorities are taken care of is critical as well. And just to share a couple of things to highlight this piece of it, this past week, myself, Dr. Wood, and Mrs. Wetmore Chase had a chance to drive a school bus. And you probably say, oh, wow, that sounds cool. But it's so interesting because for 22 years, I've watched buses purchase many millions and millions of dollars worth of buses, and actually have never spent any time on a school bus. And it was just pretty amazing to drive the bus and to sit there and think about the time, the patience, the focus, the attention to detail that our bus drivers must have every minute of every day. And I only had 5 passengers, and these were 5 adults. Imagine having a bus full of 60 kids. And so I must admit I have a complete renewed respect for our drivers and our trainers. And we have a very professional outfit here, trainers who actually go through the process. And so I share that because those are oftentimes the things that we don't see and we only hear about when somebody complaining because the bus was late. And not thinking about the care that's taken to ensure that the bus arrives safely and deliver kids safely to school every day, 2.2 million miles in a year. So put that in perspective. The second piece that I want to acknowledge too, because this time of the year, people think that the school is a ghost town. There's no one here. No one's working. Well, the people who are working you don't see. You know, it's the IMS folks who are dragging wires or are coming in and repurposing computers. It's the custodians who are stripping floors and making sure that when kids come back and staff come back, everything is bright and shiny. It's our facilities guys who are trying to stay ahead of the rain to make sure that the fields are cut accordingly. So I share those things only because we are as a system only as good as our weakest link in terms of our staff. And we have a lot of great people, hence make us a great system. And so I want to acknowledge that and thank Mr. Trainer for bringing that point up as well. So as we embrace the summer, we try to embrace the summer, and yes, we're looking forward to September, but not that fast. We certainly want to do so. And finally, I just wanted to about 2 final comments. One, I said to Mrs. DeFisciani so earlier that it's somewhat odd for me because for 10 years, I've either sat beside or across Mrs. Gray. And it's kind of odd sitting here now and thinking, oh my God, for 10 years, she was either beside me or across from me. So I want to, again, express my gratitude to Mrs. Gray. And similarly, 10 years ago, Mr. Casey was the outgoing, Mr. Gilado was the incoming president. We transitioned in my arrival, or the opposite way, outgoing, he was incoming. So he was the president that's here when I was 10 years ago, and the president re-elected now. So I want to say congratulations and thank you, Mr. Casey, for your leadership. And Mr. Presser, welcome back aboard as well, and for your leadership. And Mrs. Rajat, certainly, I said it before that, you know, we're a functional school district because it starts at the top. We're a very functional board, people who are committed to the cause, people who do their homework, and people who ask the right questions, and more important, people come to the table with the right intention. What that intention is, what can we do better on behalf of the students that we serve? So welcome aboard, and I'm certainly looking forward to working with you for 3 years plus during your term and tenure here on the Board of Education. So thank you, Mr. Casey.
Thank you. We have a couple information items. We have I don't know if do you have it up there, a board retreat agenda that we have modified in the last week. We wanted to make sure that the discussion of goals for the district and for the board would take place. When Bob was in town, he has a long scheduled family vacation to Italy, and we don't want to cut into that. We want to go with him. So we're having our first meeting will be August 4th. It'll be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, prior to our first board meeting in August, our business meeting, and then the second one will be on the 25th, prior to our last board meeting in August, and often a meeting that, while it's a study session, often we do some business making the final appointments before school opens. So again, meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The first meeting we'll talk about governance and those kinds of issues, and then we'll get to goals and policy at the second meeting. So Bob and I met with Oliver the other day, and the agenda meeting went over this and feel comfortable with it. And but anybody has any questions or suggestions, we certainly have time to make appropriate changes. Good, thank you. We did circulate, Vanessa circulated yesterday, our new listing of board assignments. Thank the board for being such servants on this. There are times when you're not sure which school you're supposed to be in for those things that aren't at the board table, but there's a lot that goes on beyond that, and all the board members have stepped forward, and we have a lot of volunteers in terms of the various committees in the district and liaisons to the school. So I think we've got a final list. We can get that out to the schools, and then we can go from there. But if anybody has any questions or comments, well said on that. Which gets us to, I don't know how I make this transition to the fire inspection report, but Jay, welcome. We like to see familiar faces making these inspection reports.
We love to do these types, too.
Welcome back.
Well, good evening, and congratulations all on your nominations and your renominations. I am Jay Turtelak, Director of Operations for the district, and to my left is Joseph Vanderwerker, the Code Enforcement Officer for the district, who's been serving us for at least 10 years now, at least. So, yes. So, we conducted the district fire inspections during the week of the June 15th. And the annual fire inspection, what that consists of is going through all of our 44 buildings and checking for all the common violations and looking at anything new. Also along with the annual visual inspections, which the state did repel that we didn't have to submit that. But as we go through, we still do look for any obvious things. For this upcoming year is the building condition survey report, which will be done by our architects firm, which is an in-depth inspection of the district for those mechanical and district grounds, things, pavement areas, structural items, so on and so forth. Out of our fire inspection, we come up with just minor nonconformities. There were some shelf storage issues clearance to the ceiling. It just cannot be no more than 2 foot items inside of classrooms and things. Fire extinguishers, a few of those were out of their inspection dates during the year. It doesn't mean that they're non-functionable. They're still fully charged. There's just an inspection date. They are done annually. And then a few housekeeping issues where we would discover some, as far as maybe a few boiler rooms or storage rooms that had a little bit more clutter than normal. During the time that we did it in June is probably one of the worst times. All the teachers and things are boxing up their classrooms. Of course, we're during the exams, so all the furniture is moved out of a lot of the classrooms in high schools where they're brought to the gym. So things are in disarray as it is. The code enforcement officers understands that, of course, and we look for, again, obvious nonconformancies. For this year's inspection, again, we only had maybe 3/4 of a page, I want to say, about 16 violations, and there is no re-inspection done. So all the violations are on their way to be corrected or corrected at this time. Okay, Joe, do you have anything to add?
Oh, not really, except I see Jay has a list of items that for nonconformances, and this is my list. So there's not a lot of nonconformances this year. The ones that were there, and you have to realize that the custodians are trying to clean the rooms and wax the floors and buff and so on. So things do get moved around out into the corridors and to their trying to keep everything clean and out of the way. We didn't have any non-conformances that would require me to come back, such as blocked exits. And that's usually this time of year when they're trying to do that. It's really tough not to block an exit when you're moving one classroom, all their furniture out into the corridor, and there may be an exit there and you don't realize it. Run over there and to get people by. So basically, it was a great inspection this year. It was a perfect timing for when we were doing the inspection. So I thought it was great.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for coming back. And I'm sure having familiarity with the buildings in the district makes it, you know what spots to look. When I saw that first thing on there about it was on that list, the storage and the ceilings, that's probably, that probably makes it almost every year, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but that's the way the code reads.
Yeah, sure.
And you try to give people a break, I mean, if I see one carton up on top of a shelf, I'm not really going to push them on that. But if you see the whole top of the shelf is that far from the ceiling with cartons or supplies, combustibles, then you get concerned.
Yeah.
So something like that is probably one of those items that were really pushing the limit.
Sure. How about board? Any questions or comments for Joe? Mary?
I just wanted to say thank you to you, Jay, because I imagine that the reason the exits aren't blocked is because you train people not to do that when they are.
Well, it's all all occupants of the building. They're doing so well. They're listening. I mean, we get information out there, but again, I mean, they're on board with the safety of their schools.
Sure.
We're not finding anything that is at a high risk issue.
And all the dates of completion
I was going to say that, yeah.
are already done.
Yep,
So
already done, right.
I think that the families and the students and the public ought to be proud and confident in knowing that this is another element of safety that we take very seriously and look at every year and really respond to. So I'm grateful for that.
Okay. If you look at previous years, you're going to see more and more non-conformances, and the custodians are really aware of what's going on now. And so it makes it much easier.
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Jay. Have a good summer, guys. We'll move on to consent items. We have the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Mary, second. Jim, any questions? All those in favor? We have two sets of minutes from the June 9th and the June 23rd meeting. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes? Christina, a second. Jim, any questions or comments?
I think I need to abstain from the June 9th, I was not present.
Okay. All those, and, well, we'll vote on them separately then, and that will provide that. So all those in favor of the June 9 meeting minutes, signify. And Bob abstains. And the June 23rd meetings, all those in favor? Thank you. We'll move into action items. This is one of those meetings where we do a lot of the, if you've been here before, we do many of these items we do every year at the first, at our organizational meeting. Kathy, we have annual appointments and annual authorizations. Why don't I get a motion on the first two, annual appointments and annual authorizations? We've got to have a motion on that. Jim, a second? Gary? So we'll let you describe it, and we'll have some discussion if we need.
The annual appointments, there's quite a list, front and back of a piece of paper. Most of these are officers, school district officers that have to be reappointed every year. Most don't carry any salary or financial compensation with it, but they are positions and duties that we need to officially designate each year. And the authorizations, similarly, just some general housekeeping things that we have to authorize, duties we authorize each year.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathy? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next is authorization of, let's do, if I could get a motion for C&D, authorization of bank depositories, petty cash funds, and authorization of employee bondings. Christina, second. Jim? I'll ask before you go through the, any questions on that? I think Todd raised one question just about our relationship with one of our banks, and you responded. I think that was appropriate. All those in favor? Thank you. That's approved. And now we move into a number of business items, the first one being acceptance of the annual fire report. Can I have a motion on that? Mary, second. Jim? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. We have approval of compensation and fee schedule. Can we have a motion on that? Christina? Bob, second. Any questions on that? Pretty standard stuff. Jim? No? All those in favor? We have a bunch of bids. On elementary science supplies, gym floors, refinishing, beverages, non-food items, snack items, groceries. Takes a lot to run a district, I guess. Can we have a motion on item 3, the bids? Mary, second. Bob? Any questions or comments? Mary, you had a question
Outside.
about the floor refinishing, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's probably
Thank you.
a constant thing here. All those in favor? Thank you. We have contracts here. Navion's contract, and then let's do that one, then we'll do alone. Can I have a motion on that? Christina, second. Mary? Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Moving right along, let's do 5 and 6, contracts for BOCES tax service, online payments, and a contract with the college board. Can I have a motion for 5 and 6 combined? Mary, second. Gary? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Item 7, contracted services, special ed, cross-country staffing, access therapy group. Can I have a motion on that? Christina? Second. Jim? All those in favor? Can I have a motion for items 8 and 9, donation of misters, as opposed to Mrs., misters from Skidmore College, and scholarship and local grant donations. Mary? Second. Jim? Any questions or comments? All those,
With gratitude.
With gratitude, thank you, yes. All those in favor? If I could have a motion on items 10 and 11, school lunch prices and free and reduced meal policy. Christina, second. Jim, any questions or comments? Do you, anything you want to say, school lunch prices? Yes.
I just want to say I appreciate the work done to look at how other districts are managing prices. I think that shows we're not just thinking about ourselves, but we're looking at what other people encounter these costs, and I think we're well in line with everybody else. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item 12, service agreement reinstatement with the Omni Group. Can I have a motion on that? Jim, second. Bob, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. And then can we combine the next two, 13 and 14, use of district cell phones and use of district credit cards? Could I have a motion on that? Christina, second. Mary? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Ken. And we move on to acceptance of special education placements.
Yes, good evening. I have what hopes to be the end of the 14-15 recommendations, and also many 15-16 recommendations.
Any questions for Michelle while she's here? Could I have a motion to accept them? Mary, second. Jim? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Mrs. Bush, personnel.
Yes, with the personnel tonight, we have 20 new teacher hires to recommend, and that has been since the last board meeting. So, really happy. And at least one is in the audience tonight, maybe two.
Two.
Amy Spears is here, and she's going to be at Octave.
Second one.
Yes, and you're going to have to remind me. We're going to talk after. And Jen Paradise, she's going to be special education at Tasago, and we may be relatives at some point. No, no, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. But congratulations, and there are two of our 20 that are here this evening. So that's our
Thank you.
staffing.
So thank you for showing the interest of coming when we were being appointed in the summertime. Could we have a motion for, and we've got two other items too. We have, right, the
Yes.
DLST benefits booklet and then our organizational chart.
Right, there's
right?
an amendment in the
And
language.
an amendment to the
DLST
yeah,
booklet
yeah.
and the organizational chart.
Yeah. And there was an amendment to your recommendation, your
Yes.
staffing.
Sorry, there are
recommendation,
6 more on the addendum.
included
Yes,
in
it's
it.
right? Okay,
included
that's
in
what I
there,
thought.
yes.
Yep, okay. Jim?
I had you call for a motion.
No, that's okay. No, questions.
I just
fine.
have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
We did change the DLST benefits booklet to the staffing addendum,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't get to see what the staffing addendum
Oh,
involves.
it was sent today, but yours,
Sorry.
sorry.
Just some additional, just saying with it.
Or just some additional?
yeah, it's
Yes, I'm
additional.
sorry,
Yeah.
additional,
Appointments,
just
yeah.
additional staffing that we signed in the last 2 days.
I got you.
Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
You can have that, Jim.
Jill, how many, what's your estimate on how many more new hirings you have?
Well, at least 8 to 10,
Okay,
and then we will have our maternity leaves and things to hire. But
yeah, yeah.
Probably 8 to 10. We still have English as a new language. We have a couple openings there. We have some part-time openings, and we are in need of a tech teacher now, if anyone knows, because our tech teacher went to another district. So, looking forward to the next meeting.
Yeah, the next couple of meetings. So could we have a motion to accept the personnel items number 1, 2, and 3? Christina, a second? Jim? All those in favor? Approved? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're back to public comments. Any?
Don't know if you
Did I
want to
miss something?
acknowledge the two people who are here.
So Jill, when you were calling out those names, I was confused as to who the new people were and what they were going to be doing, so you can call it out from back there.
Okay, Amy Spears is going to be at Octave 5th grade. She comes from many years of experience at Troy, and she's a colleague, friend of Sean Carter, so it was very nice of him to attend with us this evening. And Jennifer Paradise is going to be Tasago in our Connections program. She's a Tasago parent, actually has students in many of the schools here at Shenendehowa, so she's going to be joining our staff as a special education teacher at Tasago.
So the good news is, in terms of the board liaison for both those schools, is Mrs. Rajat, who's just joining the board, so meet her before you leave.
Working with you guys.
And I would point out just one other item. I don't think, are there any other, any public comments? I don't think there are. I do want to point out that we do have, there is a vacancy for the director of Area 7, I think it is, Gary, right, what the New York State School Boards Association, the current director is leaving, and so that position is vacant, I think it's vacant now, and we've started to hear from candidates. We have information from Barbara Morrow, who is a member of has previously been a member of the Niskayuna School District Board and a member of the Capital District Regional BOCES Board, is still on that board, and she's expressed her interest, and I'm not aware of any others that we heard of yet. Is there a sense of timing on that, Gary, when they do that?
It's got to be in, I think, by August,
Okay, okay.
because they're trying to expedite the process.
Well, we have a time at our, well, I'll ask if, would you like to speak to that? You know Barbara. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I've only known Barbara for 4 or 5 years now. She served on the BOCES board with me. She was one of the people that made an effort to make me feel comfortable and welcome as the newbie. I repaid her kindness by embarrassing her.
No good deed goes unpunished.
I'll tell you later.
Well
But
then.
she's a very thoughtful person. Obviously, by training, she's an attorney, and as with engineers, there's a thought process that is part of the training that serves her well in her capacity to serve on the board. She has a definite interest. She responded immediately to the fact that there was an opening. She offered not to seek a nomination from the BOCES board if I were interested in doing it, and I chose not to run against her because she was a fellow board member. And I can also share with you, during the course of the last year, I completed training as a certified lay minister for the United Methodist Church. And as a consequence of that, there's some possibility I would have a part-time appointment to serve in a church not too far from here, but whatever. And so there's only so many things you can put on your plate, and you have to prioritize. So that will be my focus in addition to this board and the BOCES board.
Gary, let me ask you a question. Since this isn't the normal election process, is this one that the BOCES board makes their determination who to bring on, or do the districts, the member districts, get a vote?
We have to have, I think it's 10 districts that nominate, and then after that, each district in Area 7 will have an opportunity to cast one vote. If there is no additional candidates, then she will just automatically assume office.
Let me really skate out here. We haven't talked about this, and tell me if I'm off base, but, given the timing on this, and since the next action appears to be nomination from 10 districts, would it be appropriate to have a motion that you've declined to do this because of your support for her, and this is one of those things that we turn to you. Would that be an appropriate thing for you to make a motion that we support her nomination?
I'd be more than comfortable doing that. I don't know that it was on our agenda. As long as it's acceptable to you, that's fine.
Could we get, well, let me
Yeah,
ask
to
this. Can I
modify
get a
the agenda.
motion to modify the agenda to include considering the nomination for the BOCES vacant, or the NISBA vacancy? Yeah. Jim, second? All those in favor? Okay. Gary,
Okay,
you want to
now-
make a motion?
Yes, I will
Jim,
nominate Barbara Moreau, presently serving on the Capital Region BOCES board, as a candidate for the position of Area 7 member of the Board of Directors.
Would anybody make a second? Jim? Any additional discussion? Comments? Yeah, sure.
If we nominate her for this, are we limited to nominate anybody else? Are we
No.
So we can nominate an unlimited number. It's just a nomination process.
Yes,
right?
a nom-
Okay,
exactly.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. I can't believe it's 7 o'clock and we're ready for adjournment. What else can we talk about here? Christina, can you give us the other 29 minutes
The
of
other
your
29
speech?
minutes? Yeah, sure, no
So I do want to call out a couple things
We
moving
have to
forward.
notify Ms. Barrett we did that.
I mentioned that our next business meeting is August 4th, and we're doing a board retreat. Prior to that, we're meeting right here in the library, and then the following meeting is Tuesday, August 25th, which is a study session, a board retreat beforehand. I'm sure we'll do some business that night in terms of appointments, and then our first business meeting in September is September 15th. So just call that out, and can I have a motion for adjournment? Mary, second. Bob. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.